Imagine for a moment that every record of your life was deleted and replaced by the testimony of your worst enemy. Would anyone ever know who you truly were? This is the haunting premise behind the famous adage that history is written by the winners, a concept that suggests our entire understanding of the past is merely a curated collection of propaganda designed by those who survived the longest. In the realm of historical reconstruction, we must look beyond the official statues and the golden ink of the victors to find the shadows of the forgotten. We are told that the records are objective, yet we must ask ourselves, who held the pen while the losers were still on the battlefield? The visual reconstruction of these theories often begins with the concept of the phantom time hypothesis, which suggests that the early Middle Ages were actually a fabrication. Proponents of this theory argue that approximately 300 years of history were simply invented by a conspiracy involving the Holy Roman Emperor and the Pope. They claim that the years between 614 and 911 never actually occurred, and that we are living in a timeline that is 3 centuries younger than we believe. To visualize this, one must look at the architectural anomalies and the sudden lack of archaeological evidence during that specific era. Is it possible that 300 years of human experience were manufactured just to legitimize a crown? The narrative suggests that the winners of this political struggle did not just rewrite history, but they actually created it from thin air. When we examine the fall of great civilizations, the narrative is almost always dictated by the conquering force. Take, for example, the accounts of the Mongol Empire or the expansion of Rome. We see these cultures through the eyes of the chroniclers who served the emperors, painting the defeated as barbarians or savages who lacked the refinement of the victors. This visual reconstruction requires us to peel back the layers of artistic bias found in ancient murals and manuscripts where the enemy is always depicted in chaotic, darkened hues, while the victors are bathed in divine light. If you find yourself questioning how much of our global heritage has been obscured by these biased accounts, you might want to subscribe to this channel to explore more hidden truths that the mainstream narratives often overlook. This leads us to the mystery of the Library of Alexandria, a repository of knowledge that was allegedly destroyed by various winning factions over several centuries. Conspiracy theorists suggest that the knowledge was not lost to fire, but was instead confiscated and hidden away to ensure that victors could control the flow of information for the next 2,000 years. What secrets were contained in those scrolls that the winners felt were too dangerous for the public to know? The reconstruction of this theory involves imagining a world where the scientific progress of the ancient world was intentionally suppressed to maintain a specific social order. The concept of historical revisionism extends into the modern era with the controversial theories surrounding the world wars of the 20th century. Nocturne analysis requires us to acknowledge that in every major conflict, the archives of the losing side are often seized, destroyed, or classified for decades. This creates a vacuum where only one side of the story is allowed to breathe. Skeptics of the official record point to the rapid reconstruction of national identities after 1945 as evidence that history is a tool for social engineering. They ask a chilling question: if the other side had won, what atrocities would they have attributed to us? The visual landscape of our cities is filled with monuments to the victors, while the names of the losers are scrubbed from the street signs and the textbooks. We see this pattern repeated throughout the 19th century as well, particularly in the colonial narratives of the British Empire. The stories of resistance and the sophisticated societies of the colonized were often reduced to footnotes of primitive struggle. Visual reconstructions of these events now attempt to use satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar to find the physical structures that the winners tried to erase from the map. Why would a winning side go to such great lengths to bury the physical evidence of their predecessors? In the case of the French Revolution, the narrative was crafted by the radicals who emerged from the chaos, painting the monarchy as purely decadent and the revolutionaries as purely heroic. However, later historians and theorists suggest a much more complex web of financial interests and foreign influence that was conveniently left out of the patriotic history books. This brings us to a significant turning point in the theory: the idea that history is not just written by the winners, but by the bankers who funded both sides. The reconstruction of this conspiracy focuses on the flow of gold and the secret treaties that are never mentioned in the classroom. This leads to a startling realization. The true winners might be a group that never appears in the history books at all. How can we trust a timeline that ignores the very people who paid for the wars? The narrative of the American Old West is another prime example of this phenomenon, where the visual identity of a nation was built on the myth of the lone cowboy. The reality of the indigenous populations and the complex social structures that existed before the westward expansion was almost entirely overwritten by the stories of the pioneers. We must look at the surviving photographs of the mid-19th century and compare them to the idealized paintings of the same period to see the discrepancy. The winners didn't just win the land, they won the right to tell the story of the land. As we move toward the present, the digital age presents a new challenge for those who believe history is being manipulated. With the ability to edit digital records and manipulate video footage, the winners of the information war can change the past in real time. This is the ultimate evolution of the conspiracy, a world where the truth is as fluid as a software update. Visual reconstructions now include deepfakes and altered metadata, making it nearly impossible to distinguish between a genuine historical artifact and a modern fabrication. Will the students of the year 2100 look back at our era and see a completely different version of reality? Before we reach the final conclusion of this investigation, we must consider the most extreme version of this theory. The idea that our entire ancient history is a total fabrication meant to hide the existence of a highly advanced global civilization that was wiped out in a cataclysm. Theorists point to the massive megalithic structures found across the globe that share identical engineering techniques, despite being attributed to different cultures by mainstream history. They argue that the winners of the post-cataclysmic world redistributed these ruins and claimed them as their own work. Is it possible that the pyramids of Giza and the temples of South America are the remnants of a single, unified past that was intentionally broken into pieces to keep humanity divided? The evidence for this is often found in the stars, as many of these sites align with astronomical positions as they would have appeared tens of thousands of years ago, far earlier than the dates provided by the winners' textbooks. The drama of this theory lies in the silence of the stones. We are left with a puzzle where most of the pieces have been hidden or destroyed by those who wish to maintain the current status quo. To understand the past, we must become detectives of the discarded and the ignored. We must ask why certain artifacts are kept in the basements of museums while others are put on pedestals. The nocturne truth is that we may never have a completely objective view of our ancestors. We are looking at the past through a mirror that has been cracked and polished by the hands of those who held the power. History is a weapon, and like any weapon, it is used to defend the position of the person wielding it. Does this mean everything we know is a lie? Or is the truth hidden in the small, quiet details the winners forgot to erase? The next time you walk past a monument or read a date in a textbook, ask yourself, who wanted me to see this? And more importantly, what are they making sure I do not see? The reconstruction of the past is an ongoing battle, and the most important victory is the one you win for your own mind.